Hi, welcome back to EducateTube.com. My name's Sipsky, your host. Today I'll be talking about 5 reasons why I sold my a7S II for the new Sony camera, the a7 III. Now let me give you a little bit of my background in terms of why I went in this direction. Okay, for the longest time I had my a7R3 and I was very happy with that camera, and I decided to have a supplement or a complement camera that would complement the a7R3, and that would be the a7S II. And I thought that's a good combination, and it was, because the a7S II covers the low light situation, and I would have no problem with that. And I would say a7S II is still the king of low light. Now it depends, of course, whether you're filming 4K or 1080p. We'll talk about that at the end. Okay, so let's go through the 5 reasons, okay, why I purchased the a7 III and sold my a7S II. Okay, number 1 reason, of course, if you were gonna use it for both the photography and videography, definitely go for the a7 III, because the a7 III, just like the a7R III, it has very high megapixel. For example, the a7R III has 42 megapixel, and that's why I bought that purchased that camera first, because I'm into high megapixel. But the a7 III isn't bad at all. It's actually 24 megapixel, 10 frames per second. Just imagine that, 24 megapixel, 10 frames per second. Maybe half of the a9, but still, for the price you're paying, a third. That's just amazing, right? You get 24 megapixel, same as a9, and 10 frames per second, half of a9. A9 can do 24 frames per second. This thing can do 10 frames per second. That's very, very, very good. And a third of the price. Okay, so that's reason number 1. Reason number 2, of course, is the longer battery life. And look at this. This is the a7 III and a7R3 battery. Okay, huge battery compared to the older battery. You can see the difference in size, of course. One's slightly heavier. This is slightly heavier than this one. But the good news about this one is that the a7 series, the older model, that these comes really cheap now, right? Even the original Sony batteries, the third parties, it's priced between $7 to $10. You get bunch of them. It's not really the battery I was concerned of, because I can always replace it. I have no problem replacing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time. I do 45-minute take. I just change a new battery, because I could buy probably like 8 of these compared to 1 of these, right? Well, what happened is, because I already have my a7R3, and 1 battery is I think it would be more than adequate, but I thought I was gonna buy the second one, and it will cost me over $100, right? 100 Canadian dollars plus tax and everything. So I thought I was almost gonna buy it. Then I realized, hey, wait a minute, if I can get a7 III, it comes with a battery, then I would have 2 battery for one of the camera, right? So if I just take 1 camera for shoot or take, then I will have 2 batteries. So I thought that was a great idea. So I just have to think about, should I even buy the a7 III first? If I do, then definitely I'll have 2 batteries. So that was the reason. But of course, what made me decide was also the 2 memory slots. Okay, the 2 memory slots. So when you're filming or taking a photo, you have a backup in one of the other slots. So let me show you here. There we go. You can see here. You can see there's 2 memory slot, right? So it's great to have 2 just in case one fails. So that was a very good reason. So that was reason number 2. So you have the longer battery life and 2 memory slot, 2 in 1, I'd call it, right? Now reason number 3, of course, very, very important, is the autofocus. Compare this to the a7S II. The autofocus on this thing is amazing. I mean, you compare that to the a9. It's not as great as a9, but it's close enough, right? For the price you're paying, this is great for day, evening, and night autofocus. You compare the a7S II, it's great, but it's not good enough for autofocus. I mean, if you do manual focus, that's perfect. but if you're doing autofocus, you cannot totally rely on the a7S II. Now in comparison to the a7 III. Now I wouldn't always use autofocus. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I would say 95 to 99% of the time, this is awesome. Okay, so autofocus day and night is amazing on this camera compared to the a7S II. So that's reason number 3. Reason number 4, which actually nails the coffin, is the price. For me, you know, I bought the a7S II twice. Actually, I bought it, sold it, bought it again. Now I sold it again. And the reason was because it was the low light capability of a7S II, and the price was good for secondhand, right? So I was able to get it for half the price. But then the a7 III came out. I thought, oh, that's a bit expensive. I mean, it's about $800 more than my used a7S II. And I thought, okay, no, I'm not gonna buy it. You know, that's still a lot of money. But then there was an opportunity that came, knock at the door. Henry had a sale. It was like a open box. Right away that very day, I went and purchased it because it was only, okay, it was only, I think it was like $2,500 for the camera and the 28-70 mils OSS Sony FE lens. Think about $2,500. That's equivalent to about $1,850 US dollars. And remember, this is still in demand. You can't get it right now. It's still on order, right? But it just happened that somebody actually returned it and it's an open box. I decided to get it right away for the price. It's almost the same price as my Sony a7S II that I purchased secondhand. I sold that off and ended up getting this, and really it cost me nothing now, right? So that was the reason why I actually bought the a7 III, is because I sold my a7S II to replace it with the a7 III, didn't pay a dime. Okay, I actually getting the lens with it as well, and I can sell the lens for about $300. So pretty good for that. And then of course the 5th reason, which was the reason why I bought the a7S II in the first place, was its low light ability. Right now, I'm gonna have a video out in about a week or two comparing the a7R III, a7S II, a7 III, and the a7 II, which I also sold. And then I even gonna put in there the a5000, right? Just to do a comparison and all that. Just check the video in about 2 weeks from now. I will show that, put that out for you guys. But let's talk about the low light of this a7 III. Now a7 III is known now for its low light capabilities. Now in comparison to the a7S II, the a7 III low light is not as great as the a7S II, of course. That is, you're comparing the 1080p. Okay, the 1080p on the a7S II is amazing, still amazing. It's actually better than the a7 III. If you're talking about 8000 ISO, then the a7 III is very good, comparable to the a7S II. But anything above 8000 ISO, then if you're really picky, if you're a pixel peeper and you're into, you know, low lights and noise ratio and all that stuff, I would say you can tell a different after 8000 ISO. Right? If you're just a common photographer, you know, hobbyist, whatever, right, it wouldn't make a difference even up to 12,800 ISO. But like I said, you know, you're buying camera like a7S II for, you know, cinematic quality, right, of that camera. Now, the 4K, however, is a different story. 4K on the a7 III is amazing. Compared to the a7S II, actually a7 III is slightly better for 4K, up to 12,800 for both. Like both of them after 12,800 ISO, they're not going to do as well if you're very picky about you know, low light capability. So 4K, this is the new low light king. Again, I'm going to show you in the next few weeks from now where you compare the a7S III to the a7S II in terms of its low light capability. So now you know why I have chosen a7 III over the a7S II, and it is 5 very good reasons. And if you decide to do the same, write a comment below. Thanks for watching. EducateTube.com.